Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Week 3 Thursday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings between the Steelers and the Browns. We don't have that great of a game this Thursday night. It does seem that every NFL season, at least 4 or 5 of these Thursday night games are just kind of shit shows and barn burners. And this is what we got for Thursday night. Not the best game, just a 38.5 total here. The Browns are favored by 4.5. We do have primetime football, and anytime there's football on Thursday nights, I'm going to be watching the games. I'm going to be sweating out my lineups and my prize picks plays. So going to talk through this showdown slate, guys, like we always do. We're going to go top to bottom, kind of hit on all the playable options, all the guys that I do have interest in. But before we do get started with the breakdown, please hit that like button if you guys do enjoy these videos and if they do help you out a lot. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. I will be covering these showdown slates every Monday night, every Thursday night for the primetime games. Also, I do make videos for the full Sunday slate of games for the main slate. Been covering DFS for like 5 or 6 years now. I know right now I've been doing a lot of prize picks content too, but still do cover DFS. I still do play DFS every NFL Sunday. I do play on these showdown slates as well. So appreciate you guys checking out the content. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. We are getting really close to 29,000 subscribers. Speaking of prize picks, if you guys have not signed up for prize picks yet, they are the sponsor of this video. You can check out prize picks, link down below in the description, or just when you sign up, make sure to use promo code NOAH. When you do sign up with my promo code, prize picks will actually match your first deposit up to $100. Basically, if you deposit $50, they'll give you an additional $50. If you deposit $75, they'll give you an additional $75. If you deposit $100, they'll give you an additional $100. So they're pretty much giving you a free bet up to $100. And if you want to use that on this Thursday night game, you can do so. PrizePicks is a player prop based site, so you're just picking over or under, more or less on their projections. They do already have a lot of projections posted for Thursday, and they even have their full Sunday board up. Or at least, I don't know if it's the full board, but they do have a lot of projections up for Sunday's games. If you want to check out all their props, see everything that PrizePicks has to offer, you can make some picks for yourself. I do also share a couple of my favorite plays on PrizePicks for each Monday night, Thursday night, and for the Sunday games. We have not been doing well with our PrizePicks plays, man. If you guys have been telling me on PrizePicks lately, it's probably not been going well because we really been struggling with our PrizePicks plays. But I do share some of my favorite picks for these games. If you guys want to check out those videos, I will probably post a video sometime on Wednesday. Posting this video on Tuesday, I'll probably post a video on Wednesday, giving a couple plays I like for this Browns-Steelers game. It's going to be a tough game to find a lot of props that stand out, but I'll definitely find at least a couple to give you guys. But yeah, definitely sign up for PrizePicks if you guys have not yet. Use code NOAH and make sure to get that deposit bonus when you sign up. But let's talk through this showdown slate. We're going to start off at the top of the player pool. Most expensive option by a pretty good margin is Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb coming in at $12K. Next most expensive option is Najee Harris, who is $9,800. But looking at Nick Chubb here, matchup against the Steelers, I think it's fine. The Steelers do have a pretty solid defense, but Nick Chubb is just such a big focal point of this Browns offense, and especially with how the Browns are right now without Deshaun Watson. We know this is a team that just wants to run the ball as much as possible. They don't have much confidence in Jacoby Brissett. I don't think they really want Jacoby Brissett throwing the ball much. So you can expect Chubb to get probably 20-plus touches a week. He got 23 in Week 1. He got 20 last week against the Jets. He did run really hot, getting 3 touchdowns last week, but that's what Chubb's going to be. He's going to be a guy that gets close to 20 carries a game. Anytime they get near the goal line, Chubb's usually the guy that's going to be punching it in. He doesn't get much usage in the passing game, which is definitely not ideal. With DraftKings scoring being full PPR, you do kind of want running backs that will catch some passes. Chubb did get 3 targets last week, but he's just such a big focal point of this Browns offense. They're just going to feed Nick Chubb the ball as much as they can, especially if they're playing with a lead. The Browns are fine just running the ball down the Steelers' throat. So even though Chubb's the most expensive player on the slate, I think he's kind of worth the salary. He definitely stands out as one of the top options overall here. And then you do have Najee Harris at $9,800. Now, Najee Harris so far this year, in the 2 games that he's played, he's not been great. He's not been very efficient either. Just 10 carries for 23 yards in Week 1. Last week, he got 15 carries for 49 yards. He's never been a very efficient runner. Just through the first 2 seasons with the Steelers, he has not been able to, really average more than 2-3 yards a carry. I don't know if that's maybe due to him or if that's just due to the Steelers' offensive line. But the efficiency is definitely a concern for Najee Harris. The workload, though, is kind of what you're playing Najee Harris because you're playing him for the workload. He got 20 touches last week. He gets really good involvement in the passing game. So even if the Steelers, even if they get behind, they're going to dump the ball off to Najee Harris. He's still going to be out there getting a ton of targets. he's not been efficient this year, but the volume is so good that I still think Najee Harris is a solid option here. I know he did play over 70% of the snaps last week. He was a little bit limited in week 1. I think that was kind of due to him getting a little injured in that game. But last week he played 71% of the snaps. Again, he saw 20 touches. I feel better about Nick Chubb. I would rather play Nick Chubb if you could get to Chubb, but there is a big discount you get dropping down to Najee Harris. I think just playing Harris for the volume here makes a lot of sense. Again, this is probably going to be a really gross, low-scoring, sloppy game. I think you're going to see both teams running the ball a lot. So yeah, Najee Harris is a solid play here. I think he definitely has a high floor. The ceiling, for him to really hit a ceiling, I think he's probably going to have to get into the end zone a couple times. But man, he's pretty much locked into 15 to 20 touches just about every single week. Then you have Amari Cooper, some of these other top tier receivers, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson. Amari Cooper was really disappointing in week 1, but he had a huge game last week against the Jets. 9 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown, got 10 targets. I think the volume is going to consistently be there for Amari Cooper. He's seen 16 targets through 2 games this season, but the quarterback play is obviously a major concern. With Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, we can't really expect Cooper to be a consistent player. I mean, he's going to be a boom-bust guy. There's going to be a lot of very bad games for Amari Cooper, and there's going to be some games where he pops off like he did last week. This matchup against the Steelers, I don't think this is a spot where we should really expect Cooper to have a huge game, but the volume is going to be there. I think he's a riskier option just because we know the floor is low. I think you get a much higher floor from the running backs. I think the running backs in general are kind of the best plays on this slate, but Amari Cooper is still going to get good volume. I mean, he's definitely playable. Deontay Johnson you have for a little bit cheaper. Between Johnson or Cooper, I think I do slightly prefer Deontay Johnson. I mean, Deontay Johnson's always been a target monster. He was a target monster when he played with Big Ben. So far this season with Mitchell Trubisky, he's been a target monster as well. I mean, 22 targets through 2 games. He's basically an every down receiver. He's heavily involved in the Steelers' offense. I think he's probably the next best option behind the running backs. Again, I do think the running backs carry the highest floors on this showdown slate just with how this game is probably going to go. But if, by some chance, Mitchell Trubisky and Jacoby Brissett play a little bit better than we might expect them to, that could mean, a good game for Deontay Johnson here. At 9,200 with DraftKings scoring being full PPR, with how Deontay Johnson's able to rack up catches. I mean, he had 6 receptions week 1, 7 receptions week 2. The target volume is always there. He sets up as a fairly, high floor play as well. Again, I would probably still put Najee Harris ahead of him, but I do like Deontay Johnson as a pay-up receiver. He's probably my favorite pay-up receiver. Again, I do lean him over Amari Cooper. Then you have the quarterbacks, and it's kind of weird to see the quarterbacks price, as the, 5th and 6th highest options. Usually the quarterbacks are the 2 most expensive plays on the slate. But with how this slate is shaping up with these 2 guys at quarterback, you can't really expect much from Jacoby Brissett or Mitchell Trubisky. However, when you look at these showdown slates, quarterbacks are almost always going to be some of the highest floor plays. Now, I think both these quarterbacks possess fairly low floors. I mean, we saw week 1, Jacoby Brissett just had 10 DraftKings points. Week 2, he had 16 DK points. Mitch Trubisky hasn't done much of anything through 2 games this year, just 12 DK points in those 2 games against Cincinnati and New England. But again, you're going to get probably 10 to 12 DraftKings points from these 2 guys at worst, I would say. I would be surprised if these quarterbacks put up single-digit fantasy points. They could. I mean, I think they're that bad. I think this game could be sloppy and low-scoring that both quarterbacks just are terrible. But if you get 12 to 15 fantasy points from both QBs, that's probably going to be good enough on this slate. I think the quarterbacks are very high floor plays as well. I think they do possess higher floors than the receivers. And we don't exactly know how the target share is going to go. I mean, we expect Deontay Johnson to lead the team in targets for Pittsburgh, but this could be a game where maybe Chase Claypool gets some opportunity. Maybe they involve George Pickens more than they have. Same with Cleveland. I mean, you expect Amari Cooper to be the guy that leads the team in targets, but maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones, catches a touchdown or something. I think the quarterbacks are very safe, high floor options. I think their ceilings are fairly low. When I mean high floor, I mean a floor of 10, 12 fantasy points, which on this slate is good. Normally, you want your quarterback to have a floor of 18 to 20 fantasy points, but that's just not going to happen on this type of slate. So I'm into the quarterbacks here. I think they're both, at their cheap price tags, I think they're both in play. Between the 2, I think I would slightly lean Trubisky. Trubisky does offer some rushing upside, although he hasn't ran the ball much this season. He can scramble with his legs a little bit. I think game script could maybe favor more towards Trubisky here. I could definitely see Pittsburgh getting behind in this game. So that's my thoughts on the quarterbacks. I think the quarterbacks are very solid plays, though. And even if they score like 13, 14 fantasy points, I would not be surprised to see them in the winning lineup, just with how this slate probably is going to go. But then you have a guy like Kareem Hunt at 7,600. Kareem Hunt's been really solid this year. He's, especially week 1, he had 23 DK points. Did kind of run hot on the touchdowns. He got a receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown that game. But he's been getting good volume. He's gotten 15 touches through both games this season. It's basically like a 50-50 split between him and Nick Chubb, maybe 60-40 favoring Chubb. Usually game script kind of will dictate who gets more touches. Like if Cleveland's playing with a big lead, that's usually going to favor Nick Chubb. If Cleveland's playing from behind and they're throwing a lot, that probably will favor Kareem Hunt. You would think in this game, with Cleveland being at home, with them being favored by 4.5, this is probably a game where the Browns will be playing with the lead and they'll just be feeding Nick Chubb. But Nick Chubb, obviously, as we mentioned, he's the most expensive player on the slate. Kareem Hunt is only 7,600. I normally don't really ever play Kareem Hunt like on the main slate, just because it's on the main slates we have like 10, 12 games. There's just always going to be better plays. But on a single game showdown slate with a very limited player pool, a guy like Kareem Hunt, if he gets 12 to 15 touches, I mean, he could put up enough fantasy points to be worth rostering, especially at this price tag. So I actually do have some interest in Kareem Hunt at 7,600. I feel like the quarterbacks have slightly higher floors, but I definitely think Hunt is in play. Pat Freiermuth at 7K. I mean, he's actually been solid for Pittsburgh this year, and he's kind of been one of Mitchell Trubisky's go-to guys, him and Deontay Johnson. I mean, Freiermuth has seen 17 targets through 2 games, but he's definitely he's kind of a touchdown or bust option. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to run a ton of deep routes. He's never really going to be a guy that gets like 7, 8 receptions. For him to really put up a good game that you have to win on the showdown slate, he's probably going to have to get into the end zone at least once, if not maybe twice. I know he had 12 DK points in week 1 without getting a touchdown, but normally, in order for Freiermuth, with just how his role is, in order for him to put up like 15 plus fantasy points, usually he's going to have to get into the end zone. He's really expensive at 7K. I would definitely rather get up to Kareem Hunt or the quarterbacks, but I think Freiermuth will come in with fairly low ownership on this slate. So as a low-owned play, I think he's viable, but I'm not super excited to roster him at that price tag. Chase Claypool at 6,200. He's basically like an every down receiver for Pittsburgh. He's so far this season, he's been like their third go-to option. When you're looking at the target share, it's been Deontay Johnson number 1, Freiermuth second, and then Claypool third. Claypool has 12 targets through 2 games. Last week, Claypool played. I mean, he's been leading the team in snaps played. He's played 92% of the snaps in back-to-back games. So he's going to be on the field a ton. Claypool, I still think, is a talented receiver that does have some upside. He does offer some big play upside as well, but the quarterback play is obviously a major concern. At 6,200, I think Claypool is a GPP option for sure. I feel like if you can get up to Kareem Hunt or the quarterbacks, those are probably safer cash plays. But in GPPs, I think playing Claypool on this slate makes some sense. And in the captain spot, I wouldn't even mind doing that, just because Claypool has the chance to break off a long touchdown, if him and Trubisky can connect on one. So I'm kind of into Claypool here. I think in tournaments I would rather play him over a guy like Freiermuth. Even though Freiermuth has been better this year, I think Claypool just offers more upside in general. But that's kind of my thoughts on that price range. Now, looking for some value on this showdown slate. I mean, the value, it's pretty gross, man. There's not a ton of options you're going to feel great about. You have Donovan Peoples-Jones at 5,400, who's been pretty much the clear wide receiver 2 for the Browns so far this season. Week 1, Donovan Peoples-Jones played 83% of the snaps. Week 2, he played 78%. He's basically been right behind Amari Cooper in terms of snaps played. He only saw 1 target last week after getting 11 targets in week 1, which is kind of odd. He is going to be on the field a ton, so him and Chase Claypool, I think, are very similar plays. They both have very low floors, but if by some chance they can catch a long touchdown, break off a long catch, I mean, they have the upside to be, a top scoring option on this slate. If this game winds up being super low scoring, it'll be interesting to see who comes through as a top play. Is it going to be the running backs? Is it going to be just the quarterbacks? Like I said earlier, if the quarterbacks score 12 points, that could be good enough on this slate. But I think Donovan Peoples-Jones offers some of that big play upside that you're kind of searching for on these showdown slates, and I think he is going to be on the field a ton. That's really all that you can hope on, or just kind of bank on, is the opportunity, and the opportunity will be there for DPJ. He's fairly cheap too at 5,400, so he is in play for value for me. David Njoku's another guy that's just going to be on the field a ton. He played over 90% of the snaps in week 2, and he played 89% of the snaps in week 1. So he's basically been an every down tight end for the Browns this year. The targets have not really been there. He's only seen 6 targets through 2 games. But he is a big body. He's a guy they can use near the red zone. He's probably he's gonna be touchdown or bust on this slate. He's very similar to Pat Freiermuth. I think he's kind of just a worse version of Pat Freiermuth. Freiermuth, like I said earlier, I think he'll have to get into the end zone to be worth rostering at 7K. I think the same could be said for Njoku at 5,200. I don't really see Njoku putting up a good enough score at this salary unless he gets into the end zone. But he's going to be on the field a ton, so there's obviously opportunity that he catch. The opportunity is going to be there for him to catch a touchdown here. The price tag I think makes him a viable option. I do prefer DPJ. I think DPJ's target share is a little bit safer. I think DPJ offers more big play upside, but yeah, Njoku, I mean, he's an every down tight end at 5,200 on a gross showdown slate, so that's all that I can say about him. He's definitely in play. And then George Pickens, I mean, he's kind of another guy that's just been frustrating this year. I had some interest in George Pickens heading into the season, especially in that week 1 slate. He was really, really cheap, and he didn't do anything. I mean, he had 3 targets. He had 1 catch for 3 yards. Last week, he saw 3 targets, had 1 catch for 23 yards. He's been the wide receiver 3 for the Steelers in terms of playing time. I mean, no other receiver has even come close to playing, besides obviously Claypool and Johnson. No other receiver has gotten close to playing the same amount of snaps as Pickens. I mean, Gunnar Olszewski, he played 14% of the snaps in week 1 and week 2. Miles Boykin didn't even play last week. Steven Sims didn't touch the field last week. So when the Steelers are running 3 wide receiver sets, it's going to be Claypool, Johnson, and Pickens out there. Now, Pickens so far this season has not been targeted. It doesn't seem like Mitchell Trubisky's really ever looking his way. But Pickens is a talented receiver, dating back to his years in college. I didn't watch much of Pickens in college. I know he went to Georgia, and I know he had some big games when he played for Georgia. So far this season, in the NFL, he hasn't done much, but I think Pickens does still have the talent. He's going to be on the field, so just banking on him finally having a good game could be something worth doing here. I don't know what his projected ownership is going to be on this showdown slate. I would think with how bad Pickens has been this season, he's not really going to get much ownership, so in tournaments, I definitely think Pickens is in play as a value option. I think the kickers and the defenses, I normally don't talk about the kickers and defenses for too long, but this is a slate where the kickers and defenses both look really solid. The kickers, I think, are very safe, high floor value plays. I don't have much analysis to give on the kickers, but normally kickers are safe to give you 8 to 10 points. And I feel like if a kicker puts up 10 points, that could be a good value because a lot of these other guys we talked about, I mean, I have interest in DPJ, I have interest in Njoku, but no one would be surprised if DPJ put up 4 fantasy points. No one would be surprised if Njoku had 2 catches for 15 yards. There's a lot of very low floor options on this slate. So getting 6 to 10 points from the kickers could be good enough. I normally don't roster both kickers in one lineup, but this honestly might be a slate where I allow both kickers in one lineup just because I could see it wind up being where the kickers are some of the best values. The defenses, I mean, Pittsburgh's defense, they've been good so far this season in terms of forcing turnovers, especially obviously week 1. They were putting a ton of pressure on Joe Burrow, had 7 sacks, had how many picks did they have? 4 picks. I mean, with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, obviously Brissett will take sacks, he'll turn the ball over, he's just not a good quarterback. But we know Cleveland, they want to run the ball as much as possible, so it's going to be hard for Pittsburgh to have a big defensive game unless Jacoby Brissett just throws more than we expect him to. With Cleveland running the ball so much, I mean, in order for the Steelers to luck box into a defensive touchdown, they're going to probably have to get a strip, a forced fumble and then scoop and score. But if this winds up being a really low-scoring, sloppy game, if the final score is 10 to 13 or something like that, which honestly I wouldn't be surprised if that was the final score, you could see the defenses wind up being really good plays here. Between Pittsburgh or Cleveland's defense, I actually think I prefer Cleveland. Cleveland's playing at home here. Mitchell Trubisky is a quarterback that will definitely turn the ball over. I know the Steelers' offensive line, I think they've had some major struggles this year. I know they've not been the best offensive line. Cleveland, I mean, they have Myles Garrett. I know Jadeveon Clowney got injured last week. I don't think Clowney's playing this Thursday. But they still have Myles Garrett, who's one of the best pass rushers, who's a guy that can always put pressure on the quarterback. I usually like to target defenses at home as well. I think defenses playing at home just normally are going to perform better just because they have kind of the home crowd going on, on their side. And I also think Pittsburgh might throw the ball a little bit more than Cleveland will. So, yeah, I think the Browns defense at 3,800 is a solid play here. I usually don't really play the defenses, but I could definitely see this being a slate where the defenses put up good scores. And then after the kickers and defenses, you've just kind of got dart throws. Jaylen Warren, he's going to be the RB2 for Pittsburgh. He's going to back up Najee Harris. Basically, any snaps that Harris doesn't play, Warren will play. So if Najee Harris plays 75% of the snaps, that probably means that Warren's playing the other 25%. So far this season, Warren's not really been involved too much. He had just three touches in week 1, just 5 touches in week 2. But by some chance, if Najee Harris maybe re-injures himself, and I know he's been dealing with an injury lately, it is a short week, so there's a possibility that Warren, has a good enough game here to be worth rostering. But at 3,200, I think he's priced up enough to where he doesn't really stand out to me on this slate. I would just rather get up to the kickers or defenses. And then Zach Gentry. I mean, how many snaps is Zach Gentry playing? This so far this season. I mean, just 30% of the snaps in week 1, 34% of the snaps in week 2. He's not really going to get targeted much. Maybe he sees 1 or 2 targets. You just got to hope he catches a touchdown. Not super interested in him. A lot of these other guys like Schwartz and David Bell, I mean, they've barely been involved for the Browns. Schwartz played, 29% of the snaps week 1, 18% of the snaps in week 2. David Bell's kind of been the wide receiver 3 for the Browns, but he's only played on 28 and 30% of the snaps. The Browns, they're a team that they'll use a lot of 2 tight end sets. Like Harrison Bryant has basically been like the wide receiver 4 for the Browns, and Njoku's kind of been like their wide receiver 3. But Bell should play like 30% of the snaps. He might get a couple targets. He's playable, I guess, but there's no good punt plays down here. I think once you get past the kickers and defenses, it kind of thins out. There's really nothing that stands out below the kickers and defenses to me. So that's what I'm liking for this Showdown slate, guys. It's a really gross one, man. This is definitely not going to be a game that probably has much worth watching. I mean, it'll still be a game I'll tune into just because I love football and I love watching these primetime games. But I don't think we're going to get much of a shootout here. I think we can kind of expect a pretty low-scoring game. But I hope this video helped, guys. I always enjoy making these Showdown videos. Hopefully, me going through the player pool, talking through all the plays, kind of just gives you a better idea of how to approach the slate. If you guys enjoyed these videos, hit that like button before you do get out of here. If you have not yet, hit that subscribe button as well. We're getting very close to 29,000 subscribers. I think we're like 50 away at the time I'm making this video. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. And make sure to check out PrizePicks too. Again, PrizePicks is a sponsor of this video. You can check out PrizePicks, link down below in the description. Or just when you sign up, make sure to use promo code NOAH. Get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. Take a look at all the props that PrizePicks already has posted for this Thursday Night Football game. I will definitely be sharing a couple of plays that I like for this game. I'll probably post that video on Wednesday. So if you guys want to see a couple of plays that I'm on, definitely check out that video Wednesday. They also have props up, though, for Sunday's games. You can take a look at their board for Sunday, make some picks for yourself. Again, you're just picking more or less on a projection. You have to make at least 2 picks. You can make up to 5 picks. You can do multi-sport entries. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend you guys get over to PrizePicks, sign up with code NOAH, get that deposit bonus when you do sign up. But good luck this week, guys. Good luck on this Thursday night slate. Hopefully this game turns out to be somewhat decent and somewhat enjoyable. But appreciate you guys checking out the video. Good luck, and we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.